All right, we'll continue with this. I will quickly run through what you missed. Okay. OneStop PGH Insights, as I was saying, is the replacement of Agency Counter. Agency Counter was our public-facing map that displays many different data sets used by the public to provide greater transparency by showing all workflow associated with each record. All data sets in OneStop PGH Insight come from OneStop PGH. So OneStop PGH is our online permitting licensing platform that also has a staff component. So when someone applies for a permit, our staff are reviewing that permit and we're passing it back and forth from the staff to the customer, et cetera. We're doing a lot of things within OneStop PGH. We're also doing licensing, we're doing code enforcement, condemning properties, et cetera. All data that comes out of OneStop PGH is what you will see within OneStop PGH Insights, which is the key difference. Departments within OneStop PGH Insights, city planning, I'll refer to them as DCP throughout this, permitting, licensing, and inspections, or PLI, mobility and infrastructure, I'll refer to them as DOMI, and then environmental services within DPW, I will refer to them as ES. All right. Almost where we left off, the intended users of OneStop PGH Insights and the key differences between this and Agency Counter, being broad, but the intended user is anyone interested in our open data. This does not really differ from Agency Counter. I will point out a couple key differences that we think have improved the product, but at the very core, we stood up Agency Counter within OneStop PGH Insights. The benefits of OneStop PGH Insights is it is a in-house solution where Agency Counter was a third-party vendor that delivered the product for us. The in-house solution allows us to continuously improve the product, and there are some existing issues with OneStop PGH Insights, but we're actively meeting on those consistently, and we don't get charged for every little thing, which is the most important. Alrighty. The data sets within OneStop PGH Insights, we have PLI permits, we have zoning applications, we have code enforcement cases for PLI, DOMI, and environmental services. We have condemned properties. We have dead-end properties, which a quick literary moment is properties that we have taken to court, and the magistrates have dismissed those most likely because the defendants are missing in action and most likely deceased. So we have a whole category of dead-end properties, so we're not constantly bogging down those properties with the magistrate. Rental registrations, childcare registrations, and DOMI development permits. Right now for DOMI, we're only showing curb cuts and encroachment permits. However, coming soon, Q3 of this year, and talking about the continuous improvement of this product, all DOMI permits, including DOMI utility permits, will be in OneStop PGH Insights, which will include active road closures. And it should show when the road is set to be reopened. For DOMI, and until they're within OneStop PGH Insights, they do have various resources, including a right-of-way obstruction map, a project map that includes location, project type, and status of projects managed by DOMI. They publish a city paving schedule, and they show a 5-year paving map through different resources, but we are excited to bring them into OneStop PGH Insights. Yeah.
Are these slides available?
I can get them to Liz and she can send them out. Yeah, for sure. That does include my presentation. As I said, it would be brief, and I would like to spend the rest of the time talking about the demo and answering your guys' questions. So let me refresh my browser and show you OneStop PGH Insights. So the data is loading, as you can see on my screen. One thing and one key difference between this and Agency Counter is there is no login required. So if you want to access OneStop PGH Insights, you can access it without a login. Agency Counter forced you to. One thing that you'll notice when you first come onto the site is you're not filtering, you're not zooming in to the block level, you're viewing all 216 1,000 records within this tool. There are ways to obviously filter, and we're going to go over that. But when you're viewing this many records, performance will be of some concern, at least to me. I think performance is good based on the number of records, but I recommend to filter, to search directly, all things I'll show you here to have a more streamlined experience. At this level, I'm just viewing the city of Pittsburgh. It's not really giving me much. If I were to zoom in at the block level, it will display all of the data points at the block, right? Over here at the right-hand corner, it shows me what each point represents. So those are the data sets that I just discussed, right? If I click on one of these data points, good, I clicked on a good one. This will show the case file. It's a PLI case file, and it'll show all of the workflow within the case file. I have some callouts for workflow to help you guys hopefully better understand what we're trying to communicate here later on. So I'll dive into that a little bit. As you know, though, one single parcel might have very many data points. For this parcel, there are 4, right? And I can flip through them. 2 are case files. Both of them were PLI case files, and both of those case files are in a status of closed. And then 2 of the data points are a PLI building permit that is completed, and a PLI fire alarm permit, which is also completed. So this is how you are navigating at the block level. But again, there's filters, searches, etc., to hopefully streamline the processes. So I'm going to zoom back out and talk about some very basic filters. So on the left here, I have the ability to filter by council district, neighborhood, ward, zip code, or by data type. So let's see what I wrote down here. I can look for the neighborhood of Central Oakland, and I can look at PLI permits, right? So when I am selecting the geographical area, in this case neighborhood, it zooms me directly to there. And then when I select the data type, it takes everything else away, right? And then the same thing occurs. Like you can zoom in and get as close as you want to the blocks. Let me do that one more time. So if I go all and all, I can also look at the neighborhood. Let's do South. I was gonna say it's definitely a neighborhood. South Oakland, and let's look at condemned and dead end properties, right? When I do that, my data went from 216,000 to 14, right? And again, if I zoom in, it will show me exactly where that data is. Okay.
Can you click on one of those ones?
Sure.
So we can see what the work is.
It's a dead end property. Yeah, so that's the one where we have taken them to court through a code enforcement action. And PLI actually is a public safety entity, actually. So that gives us access to additional softwares to research people. And we've taken them to court. They never showed up. We did research and we determined that they were probably dead. And instead of taking them to court again and again and again and bogging down the system, we're inspecting them once a year, and we're categorizing them as their own special thing. And basically that inspection once a year is, did the owner change? No. And a property can be both condemned and dead end, obviously.
Is there any way to find out what action will be taken once a property has been dead end for 14 years?
I do not know that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That wouldn't be. So once a year they are inspected.
Once a year they're inspected. Yeah. And I mean, we're doing this for condemned, I believe, but thinking about continuous improvement is we could show the last inspection date here. We're not doing that right now, but that is data readily available to us. Alrighty. Very straightforward filtering here, but this isn't probably how the majority of people are going to use this tool. They'll use this tool by searching specific record types or searching specific addresses. So if I go to search here, my data will repopulate. And again, that's pretty good performance given the amount of records. And here, I have the ability to search directly. So I spelled that right?
I,
Yeah, there we go. So if I search for an address, it takes me directly to that address, and it shows me the first record in a list of records. As I said before, a single address can have very many records associated with it, right? So when I search for an address here, I then will immediately see the filters of the different record types associated with this address. So this is only showing code enforcement cases, but if there were permits, if it was condemned, if it was a rental registration, all that information would be shown within the record filter. And then to flip between records on the search, I just select a new one and it changes on my right. Alrighty, I'm gonna get zoom back out and let the data repopulate. There is also, as I've been alluding to, the ability to search for a specific record. So if you filled out a complaint through the city's 311 software and you got a case file number back in your notification, you can punch that case file number in here. Same thing if you applied for a PLI permit and you're like, what the heck is going on? My contractor said it should be issued 3 weeks ago and it's still not issued. You can search for that data within the record number search. And if I am filling this out right, you can just go straight to that record. That record then obviously there's no other filters because you're just searching for a specific. Okay. One thing that Agency Counter could not do is it could not export your data. OneStop PGH Insights can export your data. This current will export whatever's shown here. Right now, there's only one data set in the search. But if you had, let's say, 25 records in the search, you could export all 25 with the all data export there. My suggestion for those not technical is to export as a CSV.
did you try and just, see
Sure.
23 Oakland Square?
Oakland Square, Historic District.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Should take me there. There's 27 records there.
okay, and this would include also the permit.
Yeah, these are the BDAs, the Billing Development Applications, DOMI case file, PLI case file. Lots of PLI case files, some zoning applications, PLI, land operations permit. Yeah.
Movie,
Right.
which, well, some.
So if you, I read about that. Yeah. So this up here, if you wanted to export all 27 items, you could do so. Again, CSV. I will say there is no limit on the amount that you can export. So you can technically export the 216,000 records. That will take 17 hours. Exporting 27 does take like 5 minutes, just to give you a heads up. So hit it, walk away.
Yes.
All right. And the workflow does export. Although that could be lengthy, as we're going to talk about. Okay, so that's great if you know the address or the record number. But we have additional filters that you can utilize within this mapping. So one thing I would caution is the filters within here, not within the main page, deal with some data analytics. So you need to understand a little bit of querying. What you should not need to understand is our data, and we don't have a data dictionary to give you. We're actively working on that. So I'm going to talk through how to set the filters, but if you were to try to do it on your own, it might not make any sense until we actually give you the data dictionary and you're like, okay, I want to look at PLI permits and issued status. Here's how I do that. That's what the data dictionary should accomplish. I don't have that for you this time, though. Anyway, on this set filters, I have the ability to add many querying clauses. And basically, they're all going to be and statements. So I could look at the neighborhood of Central Oakland for PLI permits, they're in issued status, right? I can keep building more granular and granular queries. So if I set a data clause, I have the ability to select a bunch of different types of data. And this is, like I said, where a data dictionary would come in handy. Some of these are very self-explanatory, right? So neighborhood is, I can choose from a dropdown, right? Data source, or I believe it's called source, is PLI permits, right? And actually you see my map actively adjusting. And then status is issued. And for those not in the know, issued means you can build. That is actively when the construction should be happening. So I went from 216,000 records to 104, and I can obviously zoom in and view that data, right? So previously on the map, I was just looking at all PLI permits in Central Oakland. Now I can start filtering based off of things like status or the type of work, stuff like that.
Could we look at status is additional information requested? I can't remember what it's exactly.
Revisions required. It's called applicant revisions. There it is. 4. And then of course you can click there and view what's going on. That's only in Central Oakland.
226 is in June.
Let me just see when I went into revisions. Only in December.
He's evicted me, sorry, in detail.
Zooming back out, I'm gonna start another filter. You don't have to zoom out every time, but as a data nerd, I like to start from a fresh slate every single time. So making sure I'm working with a full data set before I query it down. This time I said neighborhood is, you give North Oakland some love. That's where I spent a couple years in college. It's a lot different. Okay, so neighborhood is North Oakland, and then data source is code enforcement, and status is in court. So these are all of the case files that are actively, we've taken them to court. Whether we're waiting for the magistrate to schedule, or it's already been scheduled, or it's been continued a bunch of times, you can view that information via these filters. So again, went from 216,000 to 22. Okay. And then of course, as I've been saying this whole time, you can export this data if you need to. Alrighty. I'm gonna switch gears here a little bit. One thing that you can do that you cannot do with an agency counter is you can subscribe to a specific record. So a single case file, a building permit, condemned property, etc. Whenever that record or data point gets a workflow update, you would be notified. So let's pretend that 226 Myron, even though person's in jail, you want to get updates when they have submitted their revisions. And then when PLI has done their next review, and when DCP has done their next review, and when it's been issued, you would hit subscribe to this record. And all you need to enter is your name and your email. And then when you do that, you get an email that says, welcome to OneStop PGH Insights, and you can unsubscribe to the record. So Agency Counter allowed you to subscribe to geographical areas. This does that, which I'm going to talk about next, but you can also subscribe to specific data points. And you can do that not just from the search, but from the main map that I came from. Under notifications is how you subscribe to geographical areas. So first you have to select the geographical area that you'd like to subscribe to. So once you do that, the neighborhood borders are visible. So if I want to subscribe to West Oakland, I can do so, and then I can say what data sources I want to subscribe to, right? And then again, you enter your name and your email. Key difference here, though, is Agency Counter would update you when a data record in your geographical area was created. This will update you when a record that you subscribe to in a geographical area is updated with workflow. So this is going to be a lot more granular and a lot more notifications going to you about the information. Because of that, we've instituted this PGH_grid, which is like a geographical area, but allows you to get more specific. Instead of subscribing to all of West Oakland, maybe I'm a resident and I just care about my 4 or 5 block radius, right? I can subscribe to this grid the same way I can subscribe to all of West Oakland. Okay. Alrighty. I am going to switch gears once more and just talk about some of the workflow that we're actually exposing. So like these tools that I went over are great, and they're going to be improved throughout this process. But at the core of what we're trying to do here is show people the workflow associated with our data, right? Trying to be an open book. So that can be tricky because the workflow is internal to us, right? Like all that really matters is, do we understand what the workflow means and can our staff carry it out effectively? Transcribing that to the public can be tricky. So I wanted to spend some time today and talk through why we're publishing this data and what it means. So this is a case file, and this is a PLI case file. I've mentioned this a couple times, but PLI, Environmental Services, and DOMI all do code enforcement within OneStop PGH. So all of their records are within OneStop PGH Insights. You can determine the department based off of the second portion of the naming convention. So CF, which stands for case file, dash the department, dash the year, and then a series of numbers. So that's all that means. Anyway, this case file is a PLI case file. It's at this address, and the status is in court. PLI did 3 different inspections. First one was on February 17th, and the outcome of that inspection was violations found, and this is the reason why. A month later, we showed up and we did a second inspection where we said violations found. Findings could have been improved there, but we get the idea that nothing was improved. Third inspection was for April 16th. The findings were falling apart, left side wide open, and this outcome is we're filing court paperwork. So we did 3 inspections. On the third one, we took them to court. That was on April 16th. Since then, we haven't done anything with this case because we're waiting for the magistrates to schedule the court date. The magistrates have scheduled the court date for July 8th at 10 a.m. Here is the docket number to look up and get more information. The decision is court date scheduled. When we go to court and the magistrate makes their ruling, we will update this with whatever the decision is. And you would get a notification about that update.
Why are, court date scheduled? Why are you calling that decision? Because that is something that I have run into trying to explain to people. Okay, I know it says decision, but that's just this.
Yeah.
This hasn't gone to court yet. We don't have a decision. And they just look at me like, well, but it says it's a decision.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not a decision.
The easiest answer is these labels are static. When this can be updated as an actual data value and it's easier to manipulate and update. Now, what we could do is we could just hide this if decision equals court date scheduled and just not show it at all. But those are basically our two options. Yeah. Or hide it.
So it can't be changed to another schedule.
It can be conditional, right? So if decision equals court date scheduled, we could hide this completely and bring in a new label that said court date pending or whatever. And then if court date pending is null, then we can flip it conditional the other way. Yeah.
Okay. So we've got the document. I'm gonna assume that's not a hyperlink, so you have to find the document.
Yes.
Under the
MGJ website. Yep. Yeah. So what? So we could put again, a static link that takes them to the website, but then they would still have to search for the docket number. We are not integrated with the county's court system. Yeah. We are also showing, and this isn't just for cases in court, this is for every case that has had a violation, even if that violation has been abated. We are showing the code section that we have cited. So the code section title, the actual code section, the code section text, the description of the violation, and the special instructions around how to abate the violation. So for this one down here, it's IPMC, International Property Maintenance Code, dangerous structures on premises, and the entire property is unsafe to occupy. The special instructions are occupancy is prohibited while remaining in this condition or demolish it. Right. These last two, description and special instructions, were not part of agency counter, but we think it is useful to the public overall. Condemned properties. So there isn't too much workflow involved with condemned properties. It's either condemned or it's not condemned. Just like a dead end property. It's either dead end or it's not dead end. So as a result, we are publishing the property, the address, the latest inspection, and the latest inspection score. Okay. We could easily publish the date that it was last inspected. As I said, that we could do that with dead end properties too.
Would any permits that have been issued to that property show up here?
They would if you searched for the address, but I just searched specifically for the condemned property. Yeah, it would. Because Liz is alluding to, for a property to get out of condemnation, you need to demo it or you need a building permit to abate the violations. You good? Sure, I will try. Condemned properties have a score of 1 through 4. All condemned properties, if it's condemned, it means you cannot occupy it. But a 1 is like the gas is shut off. You're not allowed to occupy a property if the utilities are off. A 4 is it's eminently dangerous and it's falling down for collapse. So we are showing the score through a 1 through 4 scoring. And just like any of the other data I talk about, this inspection score for condemned properties can be queried through the filters I showed before. Rental registration. So rental registration is currently voluntary for the foreseeable future, at least. I actually don't have an update on when it would be enforced. However, we are showing our rental registration data within OneStop PGH Insights. We have a lot of data that we could expose here. We can show the number of units, if there's gas-fired appliances, if it's a short-term rental, if it's a long-term rental, etc. As we are working through voluntary compliance, we need to be careful about what data we're actually exposing. So we will have a goal once we're in mandatory enforcement to expose a lot more data within OneStop PGH Insights around rental registration. For now, though, we're showing the status, the address, of course, the date the registration was created, and the last inspection result. This last inspection result is inspection pending. They have registered with us, but they have not called us out for inspection. Okay. Likewise, here is another rental registration property where the last inspection result was passed. Could also say failed. Those are basically the three values: inspection pending, passed, or failed. And again, can be really excited to work on this once we can about exposing a good amount of data here. Last thing is PLI permit workflow. And as I scroll through this, you will see that the workflow is lengthy, right? Especially commercial permitting. And we are publishing a lot of our SLAs around PLI permits. So let me explain that. This permit was submitted to us on September 26th of 2024. We did a completeness check on September 30th of 2024. This row right here shows the scheduled complete date, which is the date that we were supposed to complete the completeness check by. So we actually missed our SLA here by, it says, it looks like 3 days, but it's probably a weekend. So most likely 1 business day. So we are showing that like when we mess up, so to speak. After the completeness check happened, the application went into a series of reviews. Again, we are showing the date the review is set to be completed, the date the review was actually completed, right? Looks like we accepted both reviews. This process I've asked to be removed. It makes no sense. And it's very much like a back-end process. So basically what it's saying is the review cycle has completed, but you know that from looking at the data points above it. From there, the applicant selected a license holder. That was completed basically same business day that the reviews were over. The next day, the license holder confirmed that they would take on the assignment. And then that day that they confirmed they'd take on the assignment, we issued the permit. We are going to remove this. This is very much a back-end process that's just printing the general documents. No need for the public to know that documents were generated. From there, a series of inspections were requested. So actually look at this. So we issued this on November 1st. We didn't get called out for about 4 months until March 3rd for inspections. At time of inspections, looks like we waived 2 and we passed 1 and waived a 3rd, I guess. They requested inspections again. We passed those inspections. Then they requested an amendment. So when you request an amendment, everything happens over again. Completeness check, reviews, we issue it. So they requested the amendment on April 1st. We did the completeness check same day. So we hit our SLA that time. And then we completed our reviews also same day. They selected a license holder confirmed, all happening on the same day. We issued the permit, and Apparently, all the permit needed to do was tweak a couple things from the amendment standpoint, and the permit completed, and no more workflow will happen.
Is it anything with requirements?
Yeah. So this is a building development application, which is our new building permit, combined building permit and zoning application into one application. Is for an existing structure. So this will either say existing or new construction, and it will show the actual work being performed. In its early stages, when it's still in review, it might not be this specific as the reviewers are still working out and asking for revisions, etc.
And I'm gonna assume that the contractor is not licensed to operate in the city.
That's correct.
That would be.
It's a hard stop, and you have to have your liability, general liability and workers' comp insurance active as well. Alrighty, that is all I have. It's not too bad. Product is live. Agency counter is still active. Encourage everyone to use OneStop PGH Insights. We will be sunsetting agency counter at some point. We haven't picked a specific date. Feel free to share. I think this is a really great tool, and with continuous improvement, I think we're going to get there. It's going to be pretty much a gold standard for other municipalities around the East Coast, at least. If you need support, if you have questions, if you want to pitch enhancement ideas, email onestopphInsights@pittsburghpa.gov. That's what I had. And I took 45 minutes instead of 40. Yeah, hopefully it hurt me.
Yeah, no, it's great. Sure. I did it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the magistrates, when we come to dead end.
Yep.
This stops. The properties going to the magistrates, which I know a lot of times I've been in housing boards. And they're like, and I've done, these people have been dead for 10 years.
It does two things. So it's not a hard stop for going to magistrates. We can still take them if the situation calls for it. But what it does do is it gives us the ability to send those properties to Public Works for clean liens. So we can send public properties to clean liens at any time, city owned, URA owned, whatever. If we've determined it's dead end, we can tell DPW, go cut the grass and then put a lien on it. So to do that, we need a complaint from you from 311, or inspector might see it driving around. But if you see it's dead end, don't be afraid to put a complaint in.
I have perhaps 65 addresses from today that I have thought tonight.
Wow.
And you said, no, this is totally in-house, so no longer is gonna be that you're stuck asking, yeah, can you fix this? Can you, and you don't have to keep their, structure.
Correct.
Per se.
Right.
That's very. Can you see, other information from the city becoming involved into this? Can you see the different departments of the city actually talking to each other?
So
OneStop
PGH has a good amount of data, as you can see, and has a lot of workflow happening. We are constantly being inundated with requests to add applications, etc. So we're currently transforming utility permitting for DOMI. That's going to go live relatively soon, but doesn't really impact this. It more impacts the utility companies that deal with the permitting. After that, we are going to work on a couple applications for zoning, such as the adopt a lot application and the art and civic design application, and I think an address request to change your address. So that should be live by end of year, sometime Q4.
How will that relate to the county addressing system, which is sometimes?
I'm not sure yet. We're still gathering requirements. The county is our data of truth for address parcel owner. So if someone were to apply for an address request, we would probably need to interface with the county systems to send them that update. So, yeah.
Another thing you mentioned was road closures.
Yes.
How time are we talking hours, days, weeks?
Definitely more than days. Whether it's weeks or months, I can't answer right now. Yeah.
One of the things that greatly impacts Oakland is you never know when you come around the corner, streets can be closed.
Yeah. So there are these resources now that show road closures. They're separate maps by themselves, right? So encourage you to use them. And then obviously there'll be an insights eventually. And the reason why it's not live now is everything is point-based within OneStop PGH Insights. We're going to line-based with road closures, and getting that to work from an infrastructure standpoint is tricky.
When you're talking about including utilities, will their workload?
Yes.
So,
Yes. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Domi is concerned because a lot of those utility permits have over 100 workflow items. So they're a little concerned about displaying them all, but they're definitely going to display what is necessary.
Are we still live?
What's that?
Are we still live? People.
yeah. Just not getting much questions, you know. You have any questions?
You talked about how when rental registration would eventually become necessary
Yeah.
and have more accessibility of different
Mhm.
data points. Can you talk more about like what those data points might
Yeah.
look like and like
Sure.
what's the
Yeah.
data?
So what we're recording now are items like number of units. If there's gas-fired appliances. If it's a short-term rental versus a long-term rental. The certificate of occupancy information. It's going to correspond with number of units because we're not going to issue a rental registration to someone where the occupancy doesn't match the number of units, but whatever. If it's HUD, if it is Allegheny Health Department, I forget the exact term, but there's an exemption for like dormitories, hotels that don't have to register with us. So those type of properties can submit, but we're not going to inspect. So those type of information. There's more too.
How about for short-term rentals?
Yeah.
Same kind of information?
Same type of
Will it
information.
indicate that they are short-term rentals?
Yes, we are collecting that now.
I have been truly shocked by the amount of short-term rentals that are in.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have pegged that, at least when I was in college 15 years ago. That wasn't the case.
Just this last couple of weeks, I've been having for, you
Mhm.
know, for people coming into town. I guess summer is a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So,
So what's the line between short-term?
It's in, apologies, I'm a data guy. I build software. It's in our rules and regulations, the definition. Anecdotally, short term is Airbnbs, VRBOs, those type of items. I'm sure there's a specific definition within the rules and regs.
well, if nobody else has any other questions, I just want to say thank you. You know, this has been really interesting. Yeah, I think it'd behoove everybody to literally go and play. You have to sit down and just put in there, put in your own address and see
Yeah.
what comes back. Put in your neighbors, whatever. It's a good opportunity, because I get a lot of questions from people, oh, they're doing this and I don't think they have a permit, and it's like, I'm going and I'm doing that. This gives them the free hand to go and find a lot of this information themselves, so they're gaining a bit more control in the community. Okay, if you do have any questions, you have his email, Neil's email, which is great. Also, I'd like to say that we have coming up, and I'm going to miss the date, but date is it for the? We have a community meeting about the proposed, new housing on Parkview Avenue. Coming up, I will post that into the chat in a minute. Also, next month, we have, emergency preparedness. And it is going to be an interesting evening. Hope you guys can join us. Everybody stay cool. If you do know somebody who is at home, you don't know if they have air conditioning or not, and what their situation is, please contact us here. We have fans that we can distribute. We also have some other help, we just want to make sure everybody's okay, because tomorrow, even though the special alert is off, we're still expecting the temperature to go to 92, which in reality will be 104. Okay? So, say goodnight to everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks.